The ultimate achievement for Diablo 2 is reaching level 99. One of the most frustrating yet endearing things about this game has been this practically unobtainable achievement. For years in Lord of Destruction, bots were basically the only things that would do this consistently. But with the first ever launch of D2R ladder coming very soon, you can bet your sweet ass many groups across the world will be competing for just that. Let's hope Blizzard stays diligent taking down those bots. And if they do, I've got some dirty tricks for you to use in order for you to stay ahead of the pack in this ladder season and to reach level 99 as fast as possible. We will touch on early leveling a little bit, but a majority of this video will be geared towards after you've done all of your C-Bail runs until you're blue in the face. More focusing on levels 95 plus, and especially level 98 where things get really rough. When competing for level 99, you're gonna need to set yourself up for success early. This includes having a knowledgeable team to run through the game with. I guess you could just wait until another team figures it out and then hope that they G-rush you, like immediately, instead of competing themselves. While you don't necessarily need to be the first to complete this, it helps to be ready to move on to the next step within the first day or two of ladder reset. While your team doesn't necessarily have to have the best players on it, you probably want a committed crew of players that will at least run with you through hell difficulty. This will require you to have a decent plan. Mr. Llama SC and his group of absolute savage speedrunners recently set a record for completing D2R. They clocked in a time of just under 2 hours, which is insane.
D2R, sub 2.
Sub 2 hours, D2R, Jesus.
Easy game. That's
with those load screens, that's like 30 minutes of loading.
Me and the Whiskey crew will probably still be on the Den of Evil at that point, trolling and PKing each other. You think I'm kidding?
Uh-oh.
Oh,
See ya.
Oh,
I'm not dying. I'm not dying. I'm not dying. What the fuck is this rush? Get clapped.
One thing is that these guys played through on Classic, which is interesting because you give up certain rune words along the way, but playing through on Classic actually adds a huge benefit to the things that you get later on, along with some other benefits along the way. For example, your resistance penalties and higher difficulties in Classic D2 aren't necessarily as harsh as they are in the expansion. This means that you might not have to stack up as much gear through your run that helps thwart all those nasty elemental damages in hell difficulty. Additionally, the very common skill static field from the sorceress actually works to its entirety in Nightmare and Hell difficulty, much like it does in normal if you're playing Classic D2. So this skill in particular is super useful for getting through those pretty heavy bosses and just staticking them right down to an insignificant life total. And quite possibly the most useful thing about playing through the game on Classic is it allows you to skip an entire act. This is actually good in a multitude of ways, because assuming that your team can actually play through the game at a very brisk pace, this is just one less act to do. The other cool part about skipping Act 5 is you actually get to skip some very crucial quests that will actually aid you later on in your quest for level 99, which leads us to the next point of this video, the Ancients. The second piece of advice is save your Ancients quests in Normal and Nightmare until you're level 98. This might be news to some of you that you can actually skip these quests, but there's a couple of different ways you could do it. As we talked about, you could play through the game on Classic and convert your character to expansion in at least Act 3 in Hell, or for those lates players, you could just get a G-rush later on where you completely skip the Ancients quest anyway. Now, while waiting till level 98 for your Ancients quest won't necessarily give you a full level, it will give you a metric ass ton of experience. It might look pretty insignificant on the experience bar, but it comes out to 21 million EXP. And this is gonna save you hours or maybe days of Baal runs, depending on how efficient you are with your Baals or C-Baal runs. To put it in perspective, you get around 70k experience from a Baal run at that level on Players 1, and between 120 to 160k experience on Players 3. So 21 million experience, a pretty big bump. This is a very important thing to do. I would highly suggest skipping that Ancients quest in Normal and Nightmare. But what sorts of runs should you be doing and how should you do them? Let's talk about C-Bails. Everyone's familiar with these basic types of runs, but they look a little different for competitive players trying to crest the final level as fast as possible. In a typical run, an entire game of players will methodically run through chaos from the entrance, killing everything along the way. But at level 95 and above, you actually want to do this a bit differently. These modified sea bales will have 3 phases, which will ideally happen in perfect succession. With a little bit of practice in the speed of your character and with the timing of your friends, you can line these up pretty well and actually stack up the experience quite decently. The first phase is the quick chaos phase. You'll basically want to do a solo quick chaos run with at least 7 players in the game. A quick chaos run consists of a player rummaging through the chaos sanctuary, only killing the seal bosses, and most importantly, Diablo. The reason Diablo is so important at this level is because his monster level is significantly higher than his minions. His is 94 to be exact. This matters quite a bit as you grow in levels because you actually don't get as much experience the higher level that you are if you're killing monsters or minions that are a lower level than you. So basically you're gonna wanna headhunt monsters like this that are a very high monster level. And in phase 1 of this, you basically just wanna kill Diablo as fast as possible. Ideally, you would have no other players join you in this and be equipped with a character that can quickly take out the seal bosses and Diablo himself. If you're not quite to that point with your gear, it can help to have some of your friends either teleport there or help you with the seal bosses and leave Diablo kill for you alone. But if that is the case, you'll want some of those friends to break off a little early and start working their way to Baal for another phase that we'll get to in a moment. But first, phase 2. If your character is strong enough, you're gonna wanna do this. And that is head to the Halls of Pain, teleport your way to Nihlathak, and take him out as quickly as you can too. Nihlathak is a level 95 monster, which is higher than Diablo. Ideally, you would manage to find an experience shrine somewhere in Chaos and save that until all of the seal minions are dead, activate the experience shrine, kill Diablo, and then quickly get to Nihlathak before the shrine runs out. That's like most ideal situation. You'd rack up some serious experience that way. After that, you're just gonna wanna TP back to town, and hopefully the rest of your crew has started working their way to Baal, and most ideally, made their way through the first 3 or 4 sets of Baal waves. In an ideal situation, you join at wave 4 or 5 of Baal's waves to get that experience, and then immediately move on to Baal. Now, if you have a great party of friends for this that are really trying to champion you to level 99, what you can do is actually be responsible for delivering the final blow to Baal, all while your party members unparty you and allow you to collect all the experience from the kill. If your character is strong enough, you might be able to take out Baal alone, but if not, you may need a little bit of help from your friends. I wouldn't be surprised though if we saw teams of players trying to champion one person to level 99 and support them in this way. Just remember before going into Baal's throne room though, that his experience is capped at players 3, so it doesn't make sense to have any more players in the game than that, as you're only just increasing the monster's difficulty. But that being said, if you have the resources, believe it or not, there is actually a faster way, and that is Uber bosses. If you have the resources or the friends to help gather keys, running Uber bosses and the 3 mini Uber bosses along the way provides the most possible experience that you can get in one game. These runs have the potential to work a little bit better because they actually require less players. You'll want to have exactly players 4 for these Uber runs. It gives significantly more experience than players 3, as we found out in testing. It does give slightly less than players 8, but the added difficulty is not worth the time. The only drawback here is that they require a ton of keys. It's more likely that players will work these runs into their normal sea Baal runs that we talked about as they acquire keys from either trading or friends. The reason this provides so much experience is because all of those monster levels in the mini bosses and the Uber bosses are level 110. To put it in perspective, Baal is level 99. So when you're at that point where the monster levels of what you're killing actually matter, these can be super important in a run like this and provide tons of experience very quickly. The complete experience that you can expect from the modified sea Baal runs that we talked about is anywhere from 160 to 190,000 on average, and in about 5 minutes if you're fast. With this Uber boss strategy, you can expect between 270 to 280,000 experience in about 3 to 4 minutes if you're slow. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be asking about budgets and all of this stuff, and I will remind you that this is going to be one of the most competitive races in D2R history. People are going to be richer than you. They're going to have better items than you. People are competing for a milestone in the game's history. But even with some of the most basic top-end gear at that point, after the first few weeks of ladder reset, you can still compete to to be on top. With these tricks, you should be able to reach 99 as fast as possible. Now, mind you, fast is a subjective term. This is gonna take some time. Quite a number of weeks, I would imagine, for someone to reach level 99. It'll take some work, some dedication, and some friends. For those competing to climb the D2R ladder for its first season, I say to you, good luck. For the rest of you, I'll see you in the blood more, probably on non-ladder, because items are cheaper now.